Hello. Today we want to talk about how do you stay calm when your kids are not listening. And I want to say it is not being patient, it's not becoming a Zen master, it's not becoming more mindful. The reason it's not any of those things is because when our kids are not listening, we inherently have an understanding that this is an actual genuine problem. And a lot of the advice that says that you should just be more patient, you should be more mindful, you need to be able to take 3 deep breaths, all of those kinds of advice, it all basically says that this is not a problem. But it is a problem. It's a problem. And I want to say it's a problem not because we want our children to be obedient and not because we want to have control all of the time, but it's a problem because when your kids are not listening, you guys are not working as a team. And so when we think about what that means, it is a disconnect between you and your child. Now, I don't mean to say it's a problem as in it's a crisis, but I do mean to say it is something we want to do something about. So what I want you to do first when this comes up is to notice what is genuinely going on from your perspective and from theirs. So if we think about that moment where you say, please put your socks on, and they just flat out refuse, your first step is often to ask again. And I want to encourage you to not ask again. I want to encourage you to first stop and acknowledge what's actually going on. So if you say, I'm asking them to get their socks on, and it's important to me because, and then fill that out, like it's important to me because we need to go, or it's important to me because I don't want to have to do everything for everybody. I want you to really fill that out. And then when you think about it from your child's perspective, I want you to go, and they're not listening because, right? I want you to really look at what is going on from their perspective. So it might be they're not listening because they don't want to go to daycare, so they don't want to put their socks on. It might be that they're not listening because they genuinely didn't hear me, like it kind of like registered but only briefly, and then they went back to what they were doing and it didn't land. We want to look for what is the real perspective on their behalf. Now, when you genuinely don't know, then just acknowledge that. I don't know why they're not listening, right? When we really acknowledge what is going on, what happens is that it stops us from running away with stories. It stops us from being brought back into baggage that is not relevant. So you might have baggage from your own childhood. You might have baggage from your own adult relationships. You might have baggage from lots of different places. When we acknowledge that in this moment, I'm asking for this, it's important to me because, and my child is not listening because, or I don't really know why, it keeps you in this moment and not reaching for, this is just like how it was when my parents were asking me, or this is just like that other problem. If you're staying in this moment, it makes it a lot more easy to stay calm, even if that baggage remains. The second thing it does is when we acknowledge the truth of what's happening around us, our nervous system relaxes. It is literally reassuring for our nervous system to hear the truth, even if the truth isn't pretty. So the truth is, I've asked them to put their socks on. It's important to me because we go through this every single morning and I don't want to fight with them every day. And they're not listening to me because I don't know, or they're not listening to me because they don't like being told what to do. Whatever the truth is, even if that's not a pretty state of affairs, your nervous system relaxes because it's the truth. So that is a start to really notice, like, what is the actual truth of what's going on. So then, the next step I want you to do is to think about, this would work if. So actually, even better, they would listen if. So they would listen if I was better able to articulate why it was important, or they might listen if they felt some control, or they might listen if we weren't going somewhere they didn't want to go. Again, it doesn't matter if the finishes of the sentence, the examples aren't actually that helpful. What matters is that it shows your brain that you are not stuck, you're not trapped. This is not a situation that is hopeless. It's just a matter of you either haven't found a solution, or the solution isn't available to you right now. And again, that relaxes your nervous system because it is the truth. And it can sometimes be the thing that helps you to find the solution as to why they're not listening as well. So that can be really helpful as well. And then the last thing to do to really keep your emotions in check when your kid is not listening is actually to accept reality and make a choice. So when I say accept reality, I do not mean accept that kids don't listen. That's not true. It's not reasonable. It's not required for you to sacrifice yourself to be a good parent. What I do mean is that in this moment, you don't have a solution. In this moment, you go back to your acknowledging the truth. In this moment, I'm asking them to do this. They're refusing because, and I don't have a good option, right? And then you make an actual choice. I'm going to choose a valid choice. I promise you, a valid choice is to let things run the course they would have always. You know, you might yell, you might get frustrated at each other, you might carry on, like all of that can happen. But if you're making that valid choice is that that's what I have in the tank today, then a couple of things happen. It relaxes, you're less likely to go as extreme with your emotions because your nervous system is more relaxed. You're more likely to feel like, I can't be in control of my child, but I can be in control of myself. I have choice here. I'm not trapped. I have some level of autonomy in the situation. And that really helps not escalate things as far, and it also helps you recover more quickly. Now, on a good day, or the more practice you have, the choices you make might be more strategic. So the choice might be, I would rather them get themselves dressed, but I would, if my choices are having a screaming match with my child or me just getting them dressed, I'm just going to go with that. You know, like I'm just going to get them dressed myself, and that's the choice I made. You might make the other choice on a different day, but you're actually, what you're moving towards is, this is the situation I'm facing, this is the choice I'm making. The more you do that, the less your brain will get carried away with the stories of like, this is never going to work, how are they going to cope when they start school and they can't do whatever they want, how are they going to have healthy relations, like all of that carrying, you know, forwards and into the future, and how is this going to happen, and this is all going to happen because I don't know how to solve this one situation. All of that settles a bit when you just say, the situation I'm facing is this, the choice I'm making is that. That really helps to make things not escalate and really helps you to keep those emotions in check. These things can take a little bit of practice, but it's well worth it, because there's not going to be a situation where your kids will 100% listen. That's just not how we're wired, and it's not, if we think about even the children who are most amenable to being a team and working together, we're still going to face times where they're tired. We're still going to face times where they're holding on to feelings that they didn't know they had, or they didn't know how to process. There's always going to be those times where things don't go well. So the more you practice this space of what to do when those times come up, the easier it is to kind of handle it and not let it take away from the rest of the day just because that one moment you guys can't agree. So if you would like to avoid how often you need to practice because you know how to help your child listen, with your strong-willed children listen, and without using any of those control, coercion, punishments, consequences, all of those kinds of strategies that genuinely, they just don't work very well for strong-willed kids. If you want to learn an approach to help them, inspire them and encourage them to work as a team for the right reasons, then check out my webinar, Getting Strong-Willed Children to Listen. You can register for that at jodithornton.com/listen, and I would love to see you there. If you have any questions about today's content, about keeping your emotions in check when they don't listen, please just pop them in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching.